Yeah, like a lot of interesting things there. Like I guess part of me wants to just kind of ask about sort of the setup, but then that's a bit more of a superficial thing. But so like, I guess maybe one of the things of, in a larger sense, we both have like I guess percussive / electronic things, and I guess
Yeah.
maybe the more detailed question that might be an interesting place to jump off of is like where, for you, the like act of playing a drum or playing percussion ends and electronic / acousmatic like electronic sounds begin. Like where, like, is there like a fixed point? Like I mean there's a point here in interface, but in terms of your thinking, like where does the drumming stop and electronic stuff begin? I guess maybe is the yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that question already, but
Cool. There we go.
yeah, no, but it's I guess it's for me also a question of the interface that I actually most of the time I want to do electronic music, but just I mean I try to not look at the screen of the computer, so I have a controller, but it's kind of you can good at it. You can get good at playing the controller, but I mean I played drums before I started electronic music, so this is kind of like the thing that I'm used to, that I can like have like a more sensible approach also. Yeah, that's why I still use like drumming gestures maybe also. I still like drumming, of course.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. How's that for you?
I mean that's good. I mean it's at a similar place for me, right? In terms of like, because for like I guess from our setup, or at least from what we've played now, you had a lot more sounds that were of electronic origin that seemed to be, at least while playing, a little bit more separated from immediate gestural input. Meaning that like there's processes that I don't know what they were, which is cool, and that's always part of the fun of playing. Whereas I've kind of designed most of the stuff that I do, I sort of try to like link that as much where like my physical playing gestures are the kind of thing, whereas that limits the gestural language, right? Like I don't have too many things that are doing different kinds of morphology and different kinds of shapes and such, but that's sort of a conscious thing for me. So it's interesting hearing sounds and textures that I don't often hear in like a improvised sort of mixed music percussion oriented world, which is kind of nice. So it's interesting to sort of hear how you kind of think of that. And for me, I guess one of the things of like with electronic music, even with like you got a controller where you have a lot of control here. That's like you have a 30, 40, 50 kind of inputs there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of aspect of control there, but it's a type of controller that would not lend itself to, for example, doing a gesture that involved all 40 or 50 of those parameters at once. Like there's not enough fingers for that.
Yeah.
But like you can, with both the acoustic and the electroacoustic components, produce gestures that have gestures, like have gestural morphology and stuff, which is for me kind of one of the things that I find most interesting. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going with that as kind of a question. It's more like a kind of an observation of having access to a controller where you can control a lot of things, but then putting a lot of, I tend to play a lot more with eyes closed, so I didn't look over to see how much of the controller you were engaging with while playing. But I think being able to grab and do things, I think, is important in order to create gesture in the context of electronic music. I don't know if that's something that like, I don't know. Yeah, like as I said, I was eyes closed, so I don't know what you were doing here. I don't know. If you were
I also love acousmatic music, like just listening. But actually, for playing live, I come from the side of, I guess, it was not really related, or like also twisting a knob is sometimes you can see, okay, this is doing that as an audience, but I try to get more points where it's actually a relation that you can see, okay, this is kind of giving this sound, this movement.
Do you think that comes from, because I know with like a lot of like specifically acousmatic, but even like purely tape music, like concert music of studio music. Performance is like where it's like it's a studio practice, but in a concert environment. That I remember from my time studying that like there's often a little bit of a bugbear of having that as a legibility thing. Like so you're not just like behind a laptop hitting play.
Yeah.
You know, so like having the concert be a performance thing, which for me coming from like an acoustic background or part of it being that, I never felt that as much because like I generally was doing stuff anyways, but like I know that legibility is an important consideration. Even same thing with like live coding or something like that. You want to see you want them to see you doing this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not just checking email and stuff.
Yeah, sometimes it looks like a co-working space.
Yeah. Which is interesting to me because I think like that would that actually could look kind of interesting. Like thinking of like esports or professional gamers where like they're sat at a computer but they're like they're doing like a ton of stuff. Like they're definitely not checking their emails. But yeah, like it's interesting to hear that of like the how important I think the legibility is, I guess. And I guess with that, because you have, the mix up, like you've got like a motion controller, like the surfaces you can hit, the sort of transducer, semi-acoustic, I don't know what you would call it, I guess. What
metal sheet is
sure,
working title. It's also like, I could play also my output through it, like a plate reverb, and there's also springs, so spring reverb, plate reverb kind of thing. But I mostly use it for feedbacks. To have again like something to interact physically. I can just touch it to muffle the sound or move something.
And what signal do you typically send to it then in that circumstance? Like so it's literally feedback.
Yeah, now it's literally feedback with there's just a contact mic.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
There's no secret behind that. It depends. Like the transducer is not like the biggest one, so it tends to like higher spectrum is fine.
I think I might have the same one or a very similar size in the body of the gong drum on the side.
No, it does a good job.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting thing that and like out of kind of it's more technical curiosity for the signal for that feedback. Are you going? Is that in the analog domain or is that going through the computer and then back out? Like
it's going through the computer. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting, because I find like with some feedback stuff, that makes a massive difference. Like 0 samples to 64, 120, whatever it is in terms of like the way it behaves. For a long time when I was doing snare feedback stuff, I kind of preferred the sound. I don't know why I'm doing air quotes. I preferred the sound of 128 sample vector size, even though it was more latency. Yeah. The type of feedback I got, I liked more.
Okay.
Now I tend to, because I have a faster computer now, I just do it at 32, which is as short as it can get, and I've just gotten used to that as a kind of thing. But I know with like reactive systems, like if above a certain window, it's your ability to modulate feedback, particularly like physically like that, gets diminished.
But I also like input mixing sometimes, so it could be like a fun way of having it just with analog equipment. And then still having not just knobs or faders, but still something to touch.
It's a cool thing. Like there's that company, Physical Synthesis, wherever they had like a thing where it's something like this, but like it's modular bits that you sort of put together and you can control them separately, which is an interesting idea that is not something that we have too much of. And even like, because here, I guess the feedback, it's being physically produced by the object, like acoustically. I presume you also have access to the signal that you can then amplify independent of that. But then I guess there would be the ability to like use the difference between those as almost like you're physically modulating this generates a EQ curve that you can apply to an unrelated signal. So using the sort of the dampening of the physical material as a metaphor to process something else, which is
that's I want to develop that more. Also with like the analysis stuff that also you developed, it's you could map it to so much. And then maybe I'm going to travel with just this.
It's a cool thing. I've done transducer stuff, but like never with like it's been with the drum, and with the drum you can sort of dampen the head a bit, but like here you can physically distort and physically dampen it like much more than I can with this.
Really like just really the surface is the tension in the surface and everything has changed. It's really
I
nice.
would
Yeah,
imagine,
like
like, because it's also thin metal too. So I think all of
Yeah.
those transformations would have an even bigger effect in that, like, even bending the drum head, like the body is still a rigid material that like isn't going to change in any meaningful way, like with that. So that's definitely quite fruitful.
Yeah, and it's also like it's fun to discover like where's which frequency of feedback. I like it also with bigger metal objects. I don't know, like I have like a cupboard kind of thing, and just moving and okay, here's like this frequency, and I go here and like discovering like how the frequencies are moving in the metal.
Which I find like it's also, I mean, you've probably used this in many spaces as well, like the space that you're physically in is also part of the system, so it ends up like both good and bad, changing how it responds, because sometimes it's better, worse, or more responsive or less responsive. We've ended up geeking out about that a little bit, but like, it's really interesting because I like that aspect of like the physically modulating electronic sound. So it's not just like, because here you're physically modulating control parameters that affect the process, whereas here you're physically modulating the actual sounding frequencies.
But you also have like you have the microphone pen kind of thing, right? And you have it like it's quite distorted by like being so close, and
it's
like
a combination. So like it's a condenser mic, and then I just have in this like 3D printed thing. And then it's always going through like a mild distortion, like kind of overdrive type distortion, because I find you get a bit of natural compression with that, and then I have a little bit of a high pass just so you don't get like boof, 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 like that, those kind of sounds. And then on top of that, because of the proximity, the fact that like this is sandpaper effectively, like all those things become like a little bit more magnified. I've quite like that. And then the fader to be able to like bring it in and out. And over the last like a couple years, I've gotten really into the bringing my feet back into it. So like a little foot switch for like, I think actually all of the effects that I was doing for this one, like momentary. So like they just come in and out, and I can just sort of turn them on as needed. And I have a few banks of different effects that I can bring in and out. Which again, for this sort of gestural language, some of them just turn an effect on. Some of them turn on a process that does stuff, but they're all in the sort of the same kind of chasing gesture is I guess the central.
But like, how are you like making this connection, or like this balance between like this is like a clear connection to an effect, to a gesture or whatever, and this one is like a process that now is doing stuff on its own, and I'm just listening for now.
There's some newer things I've been working with that like. I've built some stuff in Datanaut where like I can, there's like a kind of a rolling buffer where it's like it's capturing, I call it onset tap. Like I'm capturing a certain amount of onsets and like a pool of onsets. So like the last 8 events are recorded. And then I can trigger those events like as a separate process. So I've been doing stuff which I use today is that the rolling buffer is still rolling and still recording. I think only 3 or 4. So it's like a tiny one on purpose just so you have more self-similar stuff. And then having another process that then just selects from that pool. So when I enable that effect, I know that I'm going to get some kind of rhythmic, repetitive process. The content of it, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be some short memory of what I've just done.
I mean, still connected.
So like it's been. I was actually watching a bunch of performances of DJ Sniff, this sort of turntablist that does interesting things with that. And it was just like, because I know he has things where he has multiple patterns that it'll go between them, and you get these like irregular, herky-jerky things. Whereas opposed to having just like a repeated sort of stutter micro loop, you have a like a pool of that. So I wanted to play with that as an idea. So it's basically that, like when I have the effect down, that process begins playback. That process is always going in terms of the capturing. So like when I want to use it, there's already the pool of whatever recently happened.
I really like. I do it with kind of with granular stuff, and then I can freeze something. So I have the buffer, and then I can go around a bit. But to have this, I can completely understand to get this into the setup.
And in this case, the way that I used it today, and the way that I've kind of enjoyed using it is that sometimes I turned it on and let it do that rhythm thing, and like there were moments where we sort of had that like boop, 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 kind of thing. But what I found I've been enjoying perhaps a bit more than that, surprisingly, is engaging it for a moment as part of a rhythm gesture, where basically it will make an augmented. So instead of me just going, "Bup, bup, bup," there's now, because it's me doing that first gesture along with the gesture whilst I'm doing it.
Yeah,
so I just sort of only push it down while doing that to get like a sort of a double kind of thing, which I'm curious, because in the acoustic world, in playing, I know what I'm physically playing, so I know that what I hear that's different is not me. But in the recording or the video, that becomes blurred because I don't know exactly what I'm playing. So I'm curious to sort of listen/watch it back.
Yeah, are you surprised then sometimes by your own?
I mean,
playing?
sometimes I do like random and chaotic processes within a certain degree. I don't often like things that are fully open casket random. That's a weird term, but like where it's just everything's random in every parameter, because then like it just becomes like irrelevant. So when I do random stuff, I tend to try to have it within like a specific bound to have that be a little bit more like tangible. But I do like definitely surprise, but more of like a guided surprise as opposed to just like, I'm going to turn a switch on and I don't know what's going to happen, which can be fun sometimes. But like in a performance or in a context like this, I don't know that I would want that button, for like this kind of playing. I'd kind of want something where like, I know that it will do something random based on XYZ that I've been doing, even if it's not necessarily audible. Like in this case, what we were talking about, it would be, audible hits of what I just did, but it could be, for example, doing audio analysis or sort of informed in a more abstract way by what we were doing. That stuff I kind of like.
Yeah.
But yeah, surprise is always fun, particularly watching them back. And I think for me, a bigger part of that is the acoustic versus electronic collapsing thing. Because like here, like you and I will hear the acoustic snare drum, and we will hear electronic sounds coming from a different place. Yeah. Whereas when you hear playback, it all comes from the same place. So like it sort of gets glued together in a way that I think is more, oddly enough, realistic. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like I mean, for the most part, even here in the room right now, I don't have like, it's not set up like a PA where there's sort of speakers far from us. It's kind of like just next to the drum. And I guess for you, it's a little further because you're sort of opposite of me, but like, I don't necessarily like the sound of an acoustic thing and then like a stereo PA way somewhere else, So in the acoustic room, it's still quite fused, but yeah, like when you get playback, it is fully fused.
Just like when you talk about like the buffer and like being surprised of what you played or not, I just remembered like the group that I started playing live. Also, we were playing a lot on the free radios and doing concerts there, and we started with the sound of setting up.
Okay.
And then of course we also recorded it and played a lot with print recordings anyways. So then like the sound of just putting in and out the jacks and everything, then always surprised, like, okay, that's some interesting material sometimes. Sometimes someone's just coming in late and talking and whatever.
I mean, then, like in that case, like sort of recontextualizing sounds, like as listened things is definitely really cool, because I'm sure there's even independent of like the broader context, like the timing of events will be kind of unusual because you're not thinking performing, you're like plugging in at the rate that you would plug in, which will have a rhythm to it, very cool. Shall we play a bit more?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. If you'd like to support the making of these videos, please join our Patreon. The link is in the description below. Thanks for watching.